This video was brought to you by Manco.trade. This site allows you to instantly trade off your unwanted TF2 items for other various TF2 items. Any money that will be left over in one of your trades that you overpaid by gets added to your wallet, which you can then use in future trades. They also hold pretty regular giveaways, so the link to Manco.trade will be down below.
Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Joe and welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the prices of all class unusuals, and not just as a whole. I mean, this is kind of like focusing on the crashes within this year. And I know a lot of people will probably just automatically assume that this is due to the Great Depression or that all the items being unboxed recently, but I don't think it's even to do with that. In fact, the majority of these price drops happened before the Great Depression even sort of took place. So the majority of the crashes themselves or the price drops themselves are not related to that, and we're going to be kind of getting into why the unusuals crashed in price later on in the video. But yeah, today we're going to be looking at some of the biggest all-class unusual price drops this year. The majority of them were within the last few months, however, there are a few significant ones that were from a little further back that I thought were too big and too significant to not put in the video. So yeah, we've got a ton of price drops I'm going to be looking at, and we're just kind of going to be talking about them and sort of how this all happened. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So this first item we're going to be looking at is the Scorching Mohawk, and this was around a month ago. It went from around 300 keys to about 230 keys, which in itself is a pretty big drop, you know, around 70 keys is a fair amount. However, it even went a lot more further than that a few months beforehand. Around a year ago, this hat used to be around 500 keys. Now the fact it's less than half of that is actually insane. There's a lot of things that kind of factor into these all-class unusuals dropping, and one of them is, I think, the multi-class crate. I think that is the main thing that started to see the decline of these unusuals. Is, of course, there's a whole crate where the only unusuals you can get out of it are multi-class unusuals, and that is why we don't see the Halloween effects from any generation like Cloudy Moon, Bonzo the All-Gnawing, Stormy 13th Hour. We don't see any of those really dropping significantly, and if we do, it's nowhere near as frequent as the other effects because they're not able to unbox. You'll notice the only ones that are actually dropping in price are the ones that can still be unboxed in the multi-class crates. And yeah, so if you're trying to pick up an endgame unusual, now is probably a good time to do so. You know, we're going to take a look at this Burning Flames Killer exclusive. Commonly known as one of the most expensive unusuals in the game, it's not even the most expensive killer exclusive anymore. 2 months ago, it crashed from 3,300 keys to 950 keys, or between 950 and 1,600, averaging off at 1,275. However, this shows that there was one sale for as low as 950 keys. Under 1,000 keys for a Burning Flames Killer exclusive is absolutely insane. It sold for, as you can see here, $1,750, which equates to about 950 keys. So the next hat we're going to be looking at is Brotherhood of Arms. This time it's a Circling Heart Brotherhood of Arms, which recently dropped from 180 keys down to 114. The fact that for just over 113 keys, or around 110 keys, you can pick up a Circling Heart's Brotherhood of Arms is absolutely insane to me. Like, that's so cheap for such a nice unusual. And I remember around 2 or so years ago, this thing used to be 300 keys, so seeing it at just a third of that price is absolutely mind-blowing to me. This is one of those unusuals that, once again, it is like an endgame hat. Most of the hats we're going to be talking about today are sort of endgame hats, and these are hats you could look into picking up if you wanted to kind of get yourself a nice hat that can be worn by all classes. Coming up next, we've got an absolutely colossal price drop, being the Purple Energy Killer exclusive, and we're going to be looking at 3 separate price drops. So a year ago, it went from 900 keys-ish, give or take, about 850 keys, down to 525, so a nearly half drop. And then it went from 525 to about 295, and it's just gone from 295 down to 230. In the space of a year, this hat has gone from 1,000 or so keys down to 230, and I just think that is absolutely insane. And a Purple Energy Killer exclusive is one of the highest tier hats you can get. Up next, we have yet another massive price drop. This is the Green Energy Crone-Stone. It went from about 280 keys to about 180 keys, meaning this thing has dropped around a third or so in price. Just an absolutely crazy hat in general, isn't it? I mean, the Green Energy Crone-Stone is a really nice hat. It's a all class unusual that I wouldn't mind having as my endgame hat. The Crone-Stone's a fantastic hat, and yeah, overall it's just pretty interesting to see how cheap this thing is. You can pick up a really high tier unusual for less than 200 keys. Up next, we have the Sunbeams Law. Now, this thing has dropped twice in the space of 3 months with a colossal effect. It started off at 950 keys, and 3 months ago, it dropped down to 611, which is already a pretty big drop. However, around a month ago, so 2 or so months after that price suggestion was made, it dropped from the 611, the new price, down to 272 keys. Meaning in the space of 3 months, it's gone from 950 keys down to 272, a nearly 700 key price drop. I'm not too sure how or why the law specifically has dropped so much in price, but just seeing how much money could have been lost by a collector of this hat, or someone that collected this hat as like their end game unusual and invested money into the game, it's absolutely insane to see how little value is left after that initial 1000 key price point. I guess it must have started off super inflated and kind of dropped down to a more realistic price, but even so, that is an absolutely crazy price. Next, we have an unusual that I owned myself, and when I owned this unusual, it was about 950 keys or so. Around a year ago, it dropped from the 1000 key price point down to 395 keys. This is the price it's still got, but the fact it's dropped from, I mean, it pretty much dropped 600 keys, which is an absolutely insane amount of money to drop, especially if you owned this unusual before and you picked it up for 1000 keys and suddenly it drops to just 400 or so. You'd be pretty heartbroken, man. You would have lost a lot of money on this hat, and luckily I sold mine probably just before it. So coming up next, there was a Scorching Flames Salty Dog, and this hat didn't used to be an all-class hat, however, it was made multi-class a good amount of time ago. But it used to be about 400 or so keys, and it's just dropped down to 225, and this drop happened 7 days ago, so a super recent drop. But the Salty Dog is actually a really nice hat. It looks good on a lot of classes, and a Scorching Flames one at 225 keys is pretty cheap. I mean, the point I'm making is that the majority of these hats probably should be worth a bit more. Like, in an ideal world where the economy isn't like messed around or there's not loads of them being unboxed, the majority of these hats would be worth a lot more, probably more towards the old price points. But yeah, pretty crazy price drop there for around 200 or so keys. So coming up next, we have a Burning Flames Cotton Head. And of course, the Cotton Head, again, used to be a Pyro exclusive unusual. However, it was made multi-class or all-class a fair amount of time ago. And 7 months ago, the Burning Flames Cotton Head dropped from 1030 keys all the way down to 297, and since then it's been reduced further with a price point now of 262 keys, meaning in the space of 7 months it's gone from over 1000 keys all the way down to a price point that's less than 300 keys, and significantly less at that. Absolutely crazy there. I guess the initial price once again was pretty inflated. This next unusual I used to own around 2 years ago. It's a Green Energy Killer exclusive that came in at the time about 1100 keys, somewhere around that range. And now, just 6 months ago, it was reduced from 420 down to 365. Meaning that in the space of 2 years, it's gone down over 700 or so keys, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me, because I remember this was probably the most expensive unusual that I owned. You know, I owned a Bonzo viewfinder, which was probably more expensive now, but at the time, I'm pretty sure the KE was priced higher than it. And the fact you can pick it up now for less than 400 keys to someone who used to own it and sold it for very high prices is absolutely crazy to me. But guys, that is just about it for this video. So what do you think the main reason is for these price drops? Obviously, I went over it briefly earlier, the fact that multi-class crates came out, so certain effects are easier and still unboxable, meaning there's more in existence, which means there's less of a demand. But I also think it's like the player base, you know, some of these are over the course of like a year or two, and there's people cashing out every day. You know, there's people quitting trading, people starting trading, and the chances are the people cashing out are cashing out their big unusuals, meaning they're selling them lower, which means the prices go down. And a lot of these sales were probably for cash or pure, so it does make sense that when you think about the kind of declining player base, that the unusual prices do correlate with that. But guys, that is just about it for this video. If you did enjoy, then please do remember to leave a like and let me know your thoughts down below. And if you'd like to see more videos like this and general gaming content, do be sure to subscribe. Thanks again so much for watching, guys, and peace. I'm waiting for a good day, I'm ready, feeling good, mate. It's never gonna come like Skate 4. I'm so consistent like my heartbeat, always up the top like Vardy. In the scene, nobody's getting past me. You think you're better than me, hardly. On my ones like a one-man army. Gotta grind up and get myself a car G. Cop a nice yard with the palm trees, but until then I'll focus on my craft. See, I get a lot of hate like trash guys.